Hello, and welcome to the Evolved Man's Masterclass. Today, I'm super excited to have with me a very awesome guest, Zach Rehder. How's it going, Zach?
I'm really good. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing well. This is the last of the interviews I'm recording, so of course I had to say something weird on the intro, but that's cool. So, you're an international teacher, speaker, and healer. You've had a series of awakenings, and now you're a channel for messages and energies that heal, unlock, and awaken. So, can't wait to dig into all of that. So, let's get started right away. What's the origin story, your superhero origin story, and how did you have these awakenings?
What is my superhero origin story? I would, who, um, I'm not going to take credit for them, and even pretend that it was like something that I did. It was, it's like we're always when we're ready for something new, when we're ready for something bigger, it always meets us, and it's a combination. I think it's an ever unfolding every day. Like every day, I remind people that there's an opportunity for more, to connect even more to you, to open up even more to you. And that is my daily practice. And I know that we're never done with that.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm guessing if you take you from X many years ago, that probably wasn't always the philosophy. How did you get keyed into where you are now?
Yeah. The big thing is following our knowing. And that's always what I'm just inviting everyone into. Like every single one of us is so intuitive and aware, and not necessarily recognizing that yet. It's like my favorite thing is like everyone's intuitive because you hear everyone say on a daily basis, like, I knew I shouldn't have done that. It's like, yeah, you did know that, but it didn't make sense, and our intuition doesn't necessarily speak to us in the same way that our mind does, because those are two very different things.
Right.
And so, yes, after getting knocked around enough and running into enough walls of ignoring that, of not following that knowing, it's like that became the thing. That became the thing that was, the only thing that worked. And while that leads us into some terrifying experiences, maybe like stepping into new things, doing things we've never done before, like doing things that we have no idea how they're going to work out or if they're going to work out. And every one of those, every time we get to do that, it just invites us into even more, into this expansion.
Cool. So let's ground people in a little bit of the work that you do with people in healing. What is that? What do your modalities look like when you're working with individuals and groups?
Yeah, it looks all across the board. I mean, I come from a healer background, so I was like, it was almost like doing a lot for people in the beginning, and just over the time, it's like I don't want to do that anymore. That's doesn't last. It doesn't have the same effects as like someone really connecting to themselves and finding it in themselves, and not believing something because someone says it to you, but it's like, but to truly know it. Um, Something simple as like everything happens for a reason. It's like, that's a very heady statement,
Right.
but when you're actually in it and you know it, it's like, this isn't very fun, but I know that there's a purpose to this. I know that there's something here. There's something here for me, and I'm meant to go through this. So, um, above all, I do all kinds of things. I still have a healing practice. I put on workshops and retreats and events. I'm always doing stuff online as well. But, the biggest thing is, I'm always inviting everyone to connect back to themselves. And so I have a few favorite ways that I do that. One is the breath. I
Okay.
know that you had more people on here talking about the breath, but I love the breath because the breath it's so incredibly powerful, and it is always a tool to drop us into right here, right now. Most people, you'll find that when you're thinking, when we're off someplace else, past, future, worrying, whatever, it's like there's a disconnection from the breath. And so people are holding it, or not even, or it's very shallow, just like no awareness there. And just opening up a relationship to the breath even more, being more aware of it in everything we do, we find a more open, present experience with our lives. And that makes everything more amazing. And so, if we spent more time just connecting to our breath, that's probably the greatest possible thing that we can do for our experience here.
All right. So if there's one takeaway message from today, it is connect to the breath.
Yeah, yeah. I have several things. One thing I started leading people through is like, to even to work your way up to, if you can get to the place where you can spend 10 minutes and be aware of every breath for 10 minutes, it's like, that is the most powerful meditation. It's like you're almost in another dimension. Maybe if you were in a stressful or anxious place before,
Right.
you can spend 10 minutes with your breath. Everything is different.
So if you were to coach people through that, is that, closing your eyes and taking a breath and just noticing it? Is there anything else one needs to do?
Yeah, well, maybe in the beginning, that's a beautiful way, like to remove the distractions. And then when you get good at that, go do it in the distractions. Go do it while you're driving. It's like, do it when you're grocery shopping. And it's like a natural thing, and you just become more and more present in your experience. And I always see, every issue, every challenge is often from it's something in our lives that's showing us this place where we're not present. It's like, if I'm struggling in this area, and that pain is a message. It's inviting us to be more present in that area. Whether that's finances or a relationship or the health of our bodies, whatever that looks like. And so yeah, it's an invitation that it's reminding us that we're neglecting this area of our lives.
Okay.
And
So we breathe into it. We become more present to it. And then I guess the presence allows us to figure out what's next, right?
yeah, and I know our mind always wants to know what's next. And so the beautiful this piece that seems to be for all of us coming up, opening up, is a lot of times there's nothing to do.
Right, and then what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, there's nothing to do right now. You can stay busy to keep yourself distracted, or be here and do nothing. And there's so much magic to be found in nothing, and our ability to, like, there's nothing to do right now, and relaxing into that.
Seems almost foreign for I know me and many others to think about doing nothing, but I know there is so much power in that, and that's like the going all the time is an addiction that we have to avoid feeling a lot of the time, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a distraction, and it is amazing. Like, when we look at all the things on our plates, we're trying to do all of these things, stay busy all the time. And when you actually really look at your life, it's like, most of the time, not much is being created. Not much is actually coming through. I'm just bumping into things. I work on something that I don't even use. It's like, it's not actually going to the place where I was going anyway. But that is the beautiful thing. It's like, when we can be still, when we can do nothing, when there's nothing to do, it is so easy to know when there's work to be done and when there's not. And, we all know that when we're in the zone, when it is time, it is just flowing. It is just pouring through it. It's like, you can't stop it. It is effortless to create. That's always available, and it's always happening. But, we misunderstand that it was from all the hard work, from all the running our head into the wall or whatever. It's like, no, that was optional. That was trying to do something when there was nothing to do.
It's interesting. So one of the questions I'm fascinated with is, as I work on my ability to tune into my own intuition and turn up the volume there, is, how can we recognize the difference between that knowing versus, what maybe our ego says, or our monkey mind? How can we differentiate?
Yeah. It's practice. It's like, it's getting to learn a new language. And in the beginning, it's small. We can play games like, oh, where's my keys? And maybe I'm like, they could be in 3 places, and I feel those 3 places. Are they in the bedroom? Are they in the hallway? Are they in the living room? And it's like, there's something, the living room feels different. And it's intuition. The way in which our intuition speaks to us is so incredibly unique to each person. So it's not there's no this is how it works. It's like really learning how this language works for us.
Okay.
Maybe we're like, there's something different about the living room. And then I go to the living room and I find my keys. And it's like, that's a celebration. Like, oh, I knew that's where my keys were. And, we play with this more and more and bring this even more and more into our lives. And then we get to make even bigger decisions. It's time to let go of my business. I have no idea why, or invest in this, or it's time to take this next step. And it's, oftentimes I say our intuition is going to lead us into these places that our logical mind thinks we're crazy for. I think that's just part of it. That's something that we all get to do. And everyone it's happening already. And it's like our experience just gets so much easier. The more fluid, the more open we can get to that. Like now, I don't care what my mind thinks about things. It really is. It's like, whew, I know I'm going here, and I have no idea why. And I don't know if it's because it's going to work the way that I think it's going to, or I don't know if it's because that I need to have another what looks like a failure in my life, to bring up some more stuff that I'm being asked to be present with.
Okay.
But again, it's like one of the things that gets in the way of intuition is like, well, what does it mean? What's going to happen? Where's it going to go? And our intuition isn't coming from the mind, so it doesn't speak to us in the way that the mind does. It's like it never tells you why or what's going to happen or what it's going to mean. It's just like yes or no. Or my favorite one is especially when we start opening up our intuition. Oftentimes, it's like it's not time yet. You don't need to know this right now. If you knew this right now, it would just get in your way. And so you don't need to know this right now.
I wanna come back to that, but I've got a question first. So when I reached out to you to join the summit, I remember you saying, "Oh yeah, that feels good." So in other words, when you're deciding on what to do in your life, like speak on a summit, for example, you're consulting with your intuition as opposed to doing an ego calculation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't really even look at what I'm saying yes to or no to anymore. It's
That's
just,
awesome.
and they're surprising sometimes too, because sometimes it's like, see something that, oh, I want to be a part of that. And I know to say no. Or also things where it's like, I don't really want to do that, but I know that I am. I know that that's part of it. And so that's a perfect example.
Interesting. And then when you're talking about your intuition saying it's not time yet, I want to dig into that because that seems like there's some intelligence there, and that seems almost bigger than ourselves. So I don't know if you can describe if it is source or if it is a greater intelligence. But do you have any vocabulary to describe where this knowledge is coming from that can differentiate what we're ready for and what we're not?
Yeah, I don't pretend to understand that.
Okay.
I always remind people like we have these wonderful minds and they're amazing. I love the mind, but the mind it's got limits. This mind is incapable of understanding infinite. It's like, go look at space. Tell me what's at the end of space, and eventually you just get like, I can't do it. I can't figure it out. And it's like this mind is incapable. It needs a beginning and an ending. It needs a box. It needs categories, like all of these things. And it's like who we really are, what we really are, this connection, like what's really happening here is bigger than the mind can understand. And so that was one of the things very much that my healing practice showed me that really set me free probably more than anything was like to really get that this mind is understanding everything, categorizing everything, but it's like, but when you get that it can't actually understand the absolute truth,
Right.
well, do we actually need to take it so seriously anymore? And so one of the questions I've often shared with people is like, wait, what if this doesn't mean what I think it means? A feeling in our body, like I know what this is. This is sadness and I must be sad because of it. It's like, well, what if that's not what this is?
Right.
And we find that the more that, when I'm inviting people to be present with their experience, well, there's feeling and then there's thinking that we're feeling. And so most people are thinking that they're feeling, they've got it all figured out and categorized and they know what it's from. And they're so far away from here. And so, we're lying to ourselves. We're not actually like fully feeling this. We're thinking we're feeling it. And so I love the question, what if this doesn't mean what I think it means? Let's set that story aside for a little bit and
Right.
just get to be really present with all the crazy stuff that's going on, the movement, just all of the things that are happening.
That's interesting. So, in other words, to speak back to what you're saying a little bit, is there is a feeling that we need to tune into more, and we need to tune into less the interpretation of the feeling, kind of the story that we attach to it, because that may not be actually what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll see that, and just even entertaining that story, it's like everyone will start to notice it even more. You know, we have plenty of examples in our lives, like, this is why I thought that I was going to this event or whatever. And
Right.
then I ended up, the event sucked, but I met this amazing person that, we did this new stuff together. We created it was like, but I met this amazing person. And it's like, well, you thought you were going to the event to get something from the event when some other stuff happened instead. If we realize that is always happening, like in absolutely everything, here's why I think I'm here, and here's why I'm really here. It's so much bigger than that. And so, cool, we can honor that. Like, here's why I think I'm here, but to like open the door up. What if that's not the reason? What if that's not really what's happening here? But I'm still going to go and see. I'm still going to go be a part of it. I'm still going to go experience this.
All right. So my egoic mind is still trying to work for a structure that all of this works in. So
Yeah.
I'll ask you the question. When we think about our spirits, I was talking with another guest on the summit, and he's intuitive, and he talks about multiple lives. And the best way that I could reconcile it with my mind and thinking about models that I already have was that our soul is traveling into bodies almost like it's going to soul university to learn different lessons, and then it leaves different bodies and then takes new ones, like different classes. Do you think in kind of like those terms, that our soul is here to learn lessons, and that it will move on to learn more lessons?
Um, I have no clue. Like, to be honest, there is a lot of structures like that, and even that, even the idea of past lives, which is a very, very popular one. It's like that's still that's a mind, that's a linear timeline. We have science now that shows us that time and space are only, parts of this dimension, and that they don't exist outside of this dimension. And so the whole concept of past is just a mind idea anyway. It's like all of that stuff everything is happening right now. And so I don't know, we get to a point, and what if all of those teachings become distraction? It's like, does it matter that, I'm like, okay, we were all Jesus and we were all Hitler. Let's get over ourselves and actually be present for the experience that we're having right now.
All right, cool. So when we're working to be present, sometimes we have blocks, right? What are those blocks, and how do we get rid of them to enable us to be more present?
Yeah, I like that question. How do we get rid of them? And what if the block, or what shows up in our lives like blocks, what if that was just something that we were trying to get rid of? And that's why it felt like that. Because we open up, we open up. It's kind of like if we make our hand wrong, or like we make our left hand wrong. I don't want to have this hand anymore. It's like we start neglecting it. We're not taking care of it anymore. We're like ashamed of it or whatever. It's like, we're going to manifest some issues with that hand. Probably that hand's going to get weird. And that's the thing that I see it's like with emotions, for example. We've categorized these good ones and these bad ones, and these bad ones get rejected, they get stuffed down, they get suppressed, and they drive us nuts. But what if it's not the emotion itself? And I had this incredible experience a long time ago with emotion, where I was really got to be in the experience of like all of the emotions I didn't want to be with. Very, very intense experience. And I finally just let go, and I finally got to surrender to it. And I got to see that, emotions were like frequency, or just a color, or just a note of music. It's like, they're not good or they're not bad. What made sadness, what made despair so miserable was my own misunderstandings of them. And it's like, if I think sadness is bad, when sadness comes around, I'm shutting down to it.
Okay.
And so if we have happiness and sadness, everyone thinks happiness is better. It's like, it feels better, right? It's like, what if it only feels better because we're open to happiness, and sadness doesn't feel as good because we close off to sadness? And this is this experience that begins to open up. And so when we were talking about, blocks in our life, it's like, what is the thing that keeps showing up? Because that thing will keep showing up. It's like, it's going to keep getting our attention. It's like, here's this next place in us that's ready to wake up, that's ready to, to not clear or get rid of, but to actually be a part of us again. And so this is it's not something that we have to do. It's like, this is presence. Like, presence heals all of this. And so earlier in that example, wait, what if this is not sadness? What if I don't have to understand what this is to really be with it? It's like, it is being healed. And, one of the questions that I often ask people when we start a session, or like in a private session or something like that, it's like, if you could receive anything that you want from this session, what would you like? Like, if you had a magic wand.
Right.
And everyone just automatically tells me like the number one thing that they're fighting against right now. It's like, oh, I want more money. And it's like, okay, here is this place like that we've cut off from, because nobody wants more money. No one really cares about money. But it's like, what does money give us? What does money help us avoid? What does money help us not have to deal with or look at? It's like, oh, well, you don't have to feel fear or scarcity or lack or not good enough. It's like, that's what we think. And then we get the money and be like, oh, all that stuff is still there. But again, like, what is the thing that, for those watching this, what is the thing that you want to change in your life right now? And like, what is underneath that is actually just begging for you to look at it, not to understand it or figure out, but to just feel it. And I've shared this experience with quite a few people, that, like the example of money, like money was always a roller coaster for me. It's like, it was a struggle for a long time. Most of my early life was always a struggle. And I got out of that, and, I started making a bunch of money, and it was great. And I realized, like, cool, I want to keep doing this and not go back to what I was doing before. And I saw how perfect it was that it did, combination of taxes and spending and bad investments. Mm-hmm. Like, things started getting tight again. And I instantly went into, like freak out mode, where like, okay, I got to create something. It's time to do something, time to really work on my business or whatever. It's like, it's time to make some money. And then all of a sudden I saw, like, oh, wait a minute, this, my bank account being lower than I like to see it, it brings up all of this stuff in me. All of this stuff was already here. And I instantly, my mind turns that into a problem. It's like, let's go make a bunch of money. And that still didn't address any of this stuff that was here. It was like, I can have money and then I can run away from this. I don't have to feel this anymore. And I finally just got it. I scrapped all the ideas of doing anything. It's like, I'm just going to sit in this. I'm not going to try and make money. I'm going to just relax and sit in this. And it wasn't fun. And I had no idea what was going to happen, or maybe if things were going to get worse. It's like, I had no idea of any of those things. But it was like, I know that all of this that I'm feeling is not just about what my bank account looks like. Like, this is so much bigger than that. And so it was my time, couple days of just like, I'm not going to do anything about this, but be present with it, but feel it, but experience it, but let it show me what it's trying to show me. And, it was funny, within a very short period of time, like less than a couple weeks, all of these new opportunities like opened up that were so much better than I was even thinking of, things I didn't even know was possible. And it just started pouring in again. And it was this beautiful, just what a beautiful teacher, what a beautiful experience to show me how to be with everything. Like, I want to fix this. Okay, here's this problem that I want to fix, but I only want to fix it because then I don't have to then I can avoid feeling what it's inviting me to feel.
Interesting. That's I think it's a really cool story, and it seems pretty consistent with your point of view about, not just following our egoic mind. I'm going to solve this problem and then I will have a solution and go from there. But instead, sitting with it, it I'm trying to wrap my head around how I would take on that practice, because it seems like such a paradigm shift.
It is, well, it's a paradigm shift, but let me show you an example right now. So, like, to be fully here right now, tell me what's wrong.
What's wrong, like in my life?
Yeah, what's wrong? What's wrong right now?
Oh, I mean, I don't think anything's wrong right now.
Okay. It's like right now, nothing's wrong. Tell me what's missing right now.
Nothing is missing right now.
Right. But we start thinking about our lives and we go back into the past and we go into the future, and it's like we could write books about
Right.
what's wrong and missing. And again, it is this like, yeah, but right now, everything is okay. Right now, there's nothing wrong. Right now, there's nothing missing. And so this is a beautiful practice. We start freaking out. It's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how I'm going to pay the mortgage at the end of the month. It's like, wait a minute, I don't have to pay the mortgage right now. Right now, everything, it's like that is an idea someplace out there. And I wish there was a way to show people like a pie chart about the stuff that they worry about and how much of it actually happens.
Right.
I don't even know if you could see that sliver. And so we get to watch our mind and know that that's what it does. It worries about things. It is a problem solver. And so it is also a very good problem creator. It's always looking for problems to give itself things to do. And again, when we understand the limitation, just the limitation of the mind, and this is what it does, and this is what it's always going to do.
Right.
It becomes our friend that doesn't, that's always giving advice, but not to take very much advice from that friend. That's like, oh, I love you and I'm going to listen to you, but I'm also going to get a second opinion. I'm going to consult with this present moment. And it's beautiful. It begins to unravel and open up that relationship, because I get that I used to be a very analytical person. And so I totally get, I've been there in that, and just how exhausting that is, how hard it is. And it's like it didn't work.
Right.
It was like, I was always getting into messes. And, again, it was the universe showing me there's so much more to this. So you can't keep trying to stuff yourself into this little box and expect everything to work out.
Right.
And so, these failures, the suffering, the pain, like all of this is a gift. These blocks, it's like, this is driving me nuts. It's like, good. What is it inviting you to feel, to be with, to experience?
Right. And to reiterate what you said before, is that the driving you nuts is you being closed off to it, not the feeling itself. That's like the avoiding it.
Yeah. And it's not, I know some people will hear that and think like, oh, all I got to do is open up and it's going to be good. It's like, no, not necessarily. Some of these things are big. Some of these things, like, depression is one. I think that's something that we all experience, and we all will experience. And I like to remind people too, it's like there's a lot of people out there that think that, it's about changing the thoughts in our head. Let me change the negative thoughts to positive thoughts. And to me, I think that is that's the slowest, most tedious way to do it. And it doesn't really, it never gets to the place where it really works. It's like, because your mind it's always looking for problems. It's always got, it wants our attention. And so negative thoughts are way better at getting our attention than positive thoughts. We all know that. And so you're not getting rid of negative thinking. But when we get that negative thinking and positive thinking. Like neither one of them have anything, neither one of them can define you. Neither one of them can like truly tell you who you are and what you are and why you're here. It's like that all comes through like the experience, through this present moment, through living in this world that is bigger than we can understand.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because I, have, it's interesting to get different perspectives, because I had another expert who, was discussing, identifying your negative thought patterns. And I think we can all agree that, we need to take a step back, understand that that is not us. And that's kind of a third party, and similar to what you said, a friend that you don't take advice from. But what's interesting is what you're saying, instead of trying to program yourself with positive thoughts, because you're saying it's probably fighting a losing battle, or one that takes too much effort. You cannot play that game, which some would recommend, but instead, you know, not try and reprogram the old computer, but work on the new computer, which is present.
Yeah. There's like the best computer ever. It's been here the entire time. We were just off someplace else. I like the idea of being aware of these programs, though, like identifying, like, here's this negative thought that always runs. Look at how I can always, my mind is always looking for a way to make me wrong when something doesn't work. It's like that's beautiful to identify it. I've told some people, like, when you got one of those ones that's always showing up, write it down. Like, just know that this comes up all the time. This is going to come up again. The next time something isn't going to work, this thought is going to come up, but it doesn't actually mean anything about this experience that I'm having. And so there is a powerful thing. It's like to bring the awareness into it. Those, I usually don't talk like, I don't put things in positive and negative categories, because those are mind categories. But to notice this thing, it's like, it's beautiful. It's here. It's part of my life. It's here for a purpose. These thoughts. What if it's not what I think it is either? What if it's, bigger? What if I don't need to figure this out or make it go away or do anything with it? And, this mind that was so dominant because it had all of these things that it could throw at us and get our attention and pull us out of the present moment or whatever, it becomes so much more peaceful. Like, I don't know if minds ever shut up. I don't think they do that. Like, that's what they do. But when we're here, when we're present and aware, instead of our awareness just being on the thoughts, and that everything is processed through thought, and it's like, we become more aware of the breath. We become more aware of our body and our space and our environments. It's like, when our awareness is that expanded, then the thoughts are just one tiny piece in that big environment. And, just like the wall that's next to us, it's wonderful. I'm grateful for that wall. It serves a purpose. I can use it. I can lean against it. I can hang things on it, but it's not dominating my experience like the mind tends to for all of us at some point in time.
What I like about that is it takes a lot of pressure off of us to not solve all these problems that we have.
Yeah.
So I can see how that is, once you allow yourself to subscribe to that, it takes a lot of pressure off of you.
There is no pressure on us. Like,
I don't know, Zach, come on, there's some pressure.
Right now, there's no pressure on us. We have to leave. We have to go off into someplace. Yeah, but next week I have to get this thing done. It's like, is there anything to do for it right now? This is a beautiful question too. We all have a to-do list. We always will. We will all die with an unfinished to-do list. And so It's okay that there's stuff on there. And when we start worrying about it, it's an opportunity to check in, to question, to check into our intuition. You know what? Oh my God, this thing is a big project. It needs to be done next week. And I look at it as like, is there anything to do right now? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there's not. More times than often, there's not anything to do right now. And what I've found in my experience is that when it's time to do something, it's just happening. I'm not forcing myself to do it. It's just pouring through. And so for me, very much in the beginning of this, it was like, is there anything to do on this? No. It's like, but I really want to be doing something because it's coming up, but there's nothing to do. And then to do that, to set it down. We've all had the experience when we go, you're trying to make something happen, sitting at the computer, and just nothing is happening. You're distracted. You can't make anything happen. And that's a wonderful sign. Be like, wait a minute, is it time to work on this? No. And when you try and work on something and it's not time to work on it, nothing's going to happen. Or if you do get stuff done, it's going to be changed, or it just doesn't work.
What about deadlines? Huh? Are you going to miss deadlines if you're like, nah, I don't know, I'm not feeling it?
Maybe. And it's okay to miss deadlines. No. So deadlines become the thing that creates so much stress in people's lives. And
right.
And people live in fight or flight from deadlines, like, oh my God, I need to get this thing done by Friday. And when we realize, like, it's okay if it doesn't get done, I get there are consequences. If this doesn't get done by Friday, there are consequences. But is the world still going to be here Saturday? Are you going to still be able to smile on Saturday? It's like, absolutely. And so even something like that, like, I have to get this done, that story is never true, because you don't have to. I would like to. That'd be nice. That's more open. It's like, it would be wonderful if I get this done by Friday. Right. But also, like, giving ourselves permission to, and maybe it doesn't. And like, from that place, there's, we remove a huge ton of the stress, maybe all of it. And then it's not a thing anymore. And we might find that, oftentimes stress slows us down anyway. And so we become more productive. We get even more done with that freedom of giving ourselves permission to not make it happen right now.
All right. It's a good one to try out. I'm going to try that one on.
Yes. 1,000 times. I'm sure I've done that 1,000 times.
Cool. What is there anything that we haven't covered when we think about how men can evolve? I mean, you've given us some great stuff. Being present and getting out of the constructs of our own mind, which are two pretty huge things. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that we think is important for people to consider?
Yeah, I mean, as far as men, like, I love, what's happening in the world these days it's kind of messy out there. There's
right.
all kinds of crazy stuff going on, but the world looks messy, but I see it as very much like it is inviting us back into our own connection. It is inviting us into our intuition. It's like, you can't just go to the grocery store and eat anything in there anymore. Like, you have to be aware. Like, there's poison in some of those foods at the grocery store that you do not want to put in your body.
Right.
And so it's like, this world is requiring us to be aware. And as far as men, it's almost like this whole idea of masculinity and manhood and all of this old nonsense that we've been trying to stuff ourselves into, or, trying to be, that's falling apart and that's unraveling. It's like, there are no rules. There are no, this is what a man does and this is how a man does it. It's like, wait, who cares about that? Well, how do I do it? And what if that's different from all the other men? And that's okay. And so that big piece and inviting us back into feeling, that's been a very, I mean, I see it across the board everywhere, but men, big time as well. It's like, what are you being invited to feel more? And men might like to figure it out more and figure out how to solve it more. And it's like, did you know that right now in this moment, and each and every one of you can check in with yourself right now in this moment, is there a problem to be solved? And I bet you there's not, if we're here right now.
Right.
And even all of these stories are going on in our lives. All of those things are still in effect. And right now there's not a problem to be solved. And just sitting in that for 1 second, and for longer, I hope, like that begins to unravel. You begin to open up even more awareness, even more intuition, and even more perspective. And what's really funny is, these areas of our lives that maybe were driving us nuts, that were the biggest issues or problems, like they all, just about all of them eventually come to this place where they're funny and we're laughing at them. And it's like, wow, I was making that such a big deal, and it's not really a big deal. And, for each one of us, I know that I've probably had 10,000 big deals in my life. And then on the other side, it's like, that wasn't a big deal at all,
Right.
because I'm here right now and everything is okay right now. And so that's a beautiful perspective going into the next big deal. I think this is a big deal, and I know that it's not. I know that it's okay. And, this probably might work out different than I think it's going to, but it's still okay. Let's be present and see where it goes, and be with whatever it invites me to feel and be present with.
All right. I'm going to use some of that. And I've got a new baby along the way, and
Yes.
uh, want to teach that baby the right way to be in the world. And I know there's many stories I could tell myself about how to raise it or how to provide for it, but I think using some of that special sauce will help me out in terms of having perspective.
Well, let the baby teach us. It's like the baby's present. The baby doesn't have any problems. It's not worrying about things. It's not worried about any of these things that we worry about. It's like, the babies have way more to show us than we can show them.
All right. It's good perspective too. Cool. Anything else before we wrap up?
I'm not sure. I think I'm good.
Okay. Really appreciate you sharing your time and your wisdom with us. I know this has definitely been a mind bender for me, but I think that was part of the point. And I know the audience will get so much out of this, and I'll definitely be re-listening to this one to help me recenter around my feelings in the present, and getting myself out of my stories.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks again for participating and sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor to be a part of this.